The company says it now serves over 205 million customers across all the countries it serves and now has nearly 83 million financial services customers, including Safaricom in Kenya. Shareholders are set to get a gross interim dividend of R2.85 a share. Well, to give us the backstory to the numbers, I'm joined by Shameel Joosub. He's the CEO at Vodacom. Thank you very much, Shameel, for joining us. So you're reporting group revenue up 1% in the period under review, with EBITDA down 2.7%. Tell us a little bit about what was driving these numbers and the extent to which currency devaluations in Egypt and Ethiopia impacted on your numbers.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me on the show. So, I think a lot of noise in the numbers, specifically coming from the devaluations that have occurred in Egypt and Ethiopia. So we had a devaluation just before year end in March, before financial year end, of about 60% in Egypt. The good news is that we've managed to offset that with a 75% growth in net profit for the period. So very, very strong growth that's offsetting the devaluation, although you still see the impacts coming through on service revenue, EBITDA, and so on, until you lap the full impact of the devaluation next year. But from an earnings perspective, very, very strong. Secondly, in Ethiopia, you've had a devaluation that occurred 2 months ago. That essentially was 100% devaluation. So what we've seen since then is basically some price adjustments in the market to try and offset the impacts, but during the period, because you have to take the day one impact of revaluing leases and so on, and effectively that was a 1.1 billion hit in the period. In the second half, that should improve because you're taking the losses and dividing it, of course, by the newer exchange rate. So that will minimize or reduce the losses somewhat. So that will give rise to a stronger second half. Underlying, if you take out the noise from the currencies, the growth is actually very, very strong, 10.4% group revenue growth and 8.5% growth in EBITDA. So yes, growing quite strongly. And then, of course, from a customer perspective, good growth as well, ending the period on 206 million customers and 83 million fintech customers.
Yeah. So I see your financial services revenue now accounts for 11.4% of your total revenue. Is that still a key growth area for you? Do you have targets that are closer to 20% for the future, for example?
So what we're going to do is take the beyond mobile part, which is about 21% today. And of course, the main contributor there, or the biggest contributor, is the fintech part, to 25 and 30% in the medium term. So that's a key goal for us in creating the differentiation from our core telco voice and data offering. So that's the one part. So that's a key part for us. Revenues in normalized have grown 17% during the quarter. We're now processing $1.2 billion of transactions every day. So it's a massive number. That's up 31% year over year. So you're seeing $421 billion of transactions processed through the year. And that makes us the largest fintech on the continent. So very much an area of growth for us.
So given the higher cost of living crisis that consumers have been enduring, have you seen any changes in terms of the type of products that they take up, maybe shifting out of long-term contracts and moving to a more prepaid situation? I'm asking this question specifically in relation to South Africa.
So in the case of South Africa, yes, you've seen that change happening over the last couple of years. So you see a lot more hourly, daily, weekly bundles. About 80% of what we sell is hourly, daily, weekly bundles, where customers are buying more frequently. So that change has definitely happened, so customers are consuming more but more frequently. So buying on a more frequent basis than buying monthly packages.
So the Competition Tribunal recently rejected your bid to buy up 30 to 40% of fibre provider Massive, and you're on record as saying that you're going to weigh your options. What were you hoping to deliver through a tie-up with Massive?
I think for us it was exposure from the one side to a higher growth asset, So that was the one part of the logic. The second part was really, being able to invest into a vehicle that could continue to grow. So it was a massive investment, at least 14 billion of investment that was going to go in for a 30% stake, and then another 25 billion of capex over the next 10 years. So it was going to be a massive change for the fiber industry. And remember, this is all through a vehicle that is open access. So your ISPs, your other telcos, everyone would have had the benefit of this deal, and it would have been transformational for fiber for South Africa, which South Africa is way behind in terms of fiber penetration by developed market standards. And so, honestly, I think a travesty for South Africa, even more than for Vodacom.
Yeah. Shameel, how optimistic are you that the please call me issue between Vodacom and Nkosana Makate can be resolved, soon, given that it's been dragging on for so long?
Well, I think it's now at the highest court in the land. And so, with the 21st of November being the hearings, I think that's, so it is kind of drawing to a close now.
All right. Thank you so much. That was Shameel Joosub. He's the CEO of Vodacom.